can go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of GitOps Guide to the Galaxy. Today we're talking about Tekton and CI, and I'm going to hand it off to the GitOps extraordinaire, Christian Hernandez. How you doing today, Christian?
I'm doing well. I'm now feeling the meeting fatigue that everyone's been feeling. It took a while for me.
Yeah.
I'm a people person, so I like talking to people anyways. But
right.
So it took me a while longer to hit that. But I'm on now. I'm excited to talk about Tekton because CI is actually something we haven't really talked about.
No, and it's a critical component, right?
It's actually a big piece of the component for your GitOps workflows, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like without CI, really, you're just doing infrastructure as code with GitOps. So you're not even really doing GitOps if you don't have your CI process. So I think this will be a good show to introduce Tekton as CI, right? Kind of explore it a little bit. I'm going to be doing a lot of hacking. I have a presentation. I'll be doing a lot of hacking. So everyone sit tight. Get your questions in. Yeah, questions are always great.
Yeah. This is an office hour, y'all.
Yeah. So but sit tight. I might go a little long today. So for those who are who have a hard stop, just you can rewatch the recording after. But just fair warning, I might go long because I'm gonna kind of go over Tekton a little bit. Then I'm gonna hack at it. So I'm gonna go from 0 to 1. And then I'm going to go from 1 to 10, right? So this isn't going to be not even a crash course. This is going to be kind of like, I'm going to throw you in the deep end a little bit. But, we can always revisit this topic. So without further ado, I think I'm going to share my screen here. Where is that share screen button? It's always
green
in the same
button
place.
In the middle. Green button in the middle, man.
It's always in the same place, yet I can never find it. I just want to make sure I'm sharing my the right desktop right here. All right, cool. Let's go to let me present this here. Also, this will be shared out, right? Chris will share this out. I gave him a copy of this, so
gotta find that link. And
so he'll
somewhere.
Yeah, he'll put that in the chat somewhere. And so I'm gonna go over like what Tekton is, right? So like CI, I hope most of you know, is it's something that everyone knows, right, already. So CI, I'm not gonna go too deep what CI is. I'm pretty sure someone experienced CI. Also Hillary was supposed to be on chat. She said she's gonna braided silver, by the way, and that's like her background is CI, so she'll keep me honest.
Oh, cool.
If I say anything dumb. So Tekton is cloud native CI/CD, right? And so what differentiates cloud native CI/CD and traditional CI/CD, right? There's this table here. I'm not going to read. I'm not going to read off this table here. There's the links in the chat, so you guys can take a look at that presentation. But mainly is the traditional, what we call traditional CI/CD was built before cloud native architecture. So it has a lot of tech debt behind it, right? And that's, I'm not saying that as a to begrudge it or anything. It's just that's just the state of the world at that time, and it just happens, right? And so and the why behind the cloud native CI/CD is essentially it's like we don't want to bring over all that debt, that tech debt, onto a cloud native platform, right? So some things like the traditional CI/CD is really designed for virtual machines, and cloud native CI/CD is designed for containers. And really, I think really that's the core of it. And then everything else kind of falls into place after that if you keep that in mind, right? And so, when you move to a cloud native, what's that?
Peanut butter and jelly type stuff.
Peanut butter, peanut butter, jelly, peanut butter chocolate. Peanut butter chocolate is gonna come. It's
peanut butter and chocolate's for Argo. Peanut butter and jelly's for CI/CD.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. This is the peanut butter and jelly aspect of it, right? And
right. I love it.
Is cloud native CI process, right? And really, let's not beat around the bushes. So I'm talking Jenkins versus Tekton, right? And so, and not to say anything bad about Jenkins, but even Jenkins itself, they know this limitation because there's projects like Jenkins X, right?
Yeah.
Which is cloud native Jenkins, right? So it's not like it's a big secret, right? Is they're even Jenkins themselves, and they have Jenkins X as came out of the need for cloud native CI/CD. So,
Mhm.
and we have OpenShift pipelines, which I think GA'd today. It may have not
Today?
GA'd today.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like literally a few
I,
like
did I,
literally a few hours ago, right?
I've been on air, so I haven't been checking my email.
Yeah, and so well, I'm on the chat with the engineer, so it's either they either
Okay.
just came out or they're getting ready to stage it to stage out, but it's here, right? And OpenShift pipelines is based on Tekton, and so the Tekton, which is kind of weird. Tekton is a CI tool, but it's part of the CD Foundation. I don't make the rules, so I don't know that,
Right.
but it is what it is, right? It's a governing body, right? And people like CloudBees, Jenkins, Tekton, they're all
Red
part
Hat,
of this Red Hat. We're all part of this foundation. So Google's there, it's the governing body for a lot of these projects. So OpenShift pipelines built on Tekton. And so what I want to go over kind of the concepts for Tekton before, right? So so one is Tekton. We're going to hear me talk about steps, right? So steps is essentially like running commands in a container, right? Like git clone, maven build, that sort of thing, right? Docker push. And a task is essentially a list of steps. So so task is nothing but a collection of steps to take, right? So a task can be like the previous example I said, like let's say build build application, git clone, right? And then task will do a git clone, and the step will do the git clone, but the task wraps that into a workable unit here. And then a pipeline is nothing but a collection of tasks. So you have a pipeline, will run one task, run on the other task, run the other tasks, and they could run those tasks in parallel or serially, right? And so it's kind of like it builds on each other, right? You can think of those little Russian dolls, right? A step is nothing but a collection of tasks. A task is nothing but a collection of steps. Pipeline is a collection of tasks. Pipeline resource, it's actually deprecated. We don't use that anymore. However, the only reason I put it up here is because if you look up Tekton on Google, you're going to see a lot about pipeline resources, but we don't use those anymore.
Fair enough.
And so, yeah, fair enough. A task run, and this will make more sense once I start drilling down. But a task run is an invocation of a task, right? So a task is nothing but a definition, and task run is an instantiation of that definition. So it's kind of the difference between an image and a container, right? A container is a running version of the image, right? So it's kind of that sort of paradigm. And the same thing with pipeline run, right? Pipeline run is an instantiation of a pipeline, right? So you define a pipeline, and when you run it, you have to, that's a pipeline run, right? The whole instantiation of that. So, and there's things like triggers, right? Tekton has the concept of triggers, just like any pipeline. So I've talked a lot today, so I'm gonna drink a lot of water.
No, I'm in the same boat, man. Like,
yeah. I've been talking all day since like 6 a.m.
Just for context, folks, we've been planning Summit, GitOps Con, which is a day zero event for KubeCon.
Yeah.
KubeCon itself, OpenShift Commons Gathering, and all the office hours for KubeCon. So yeah, we've been a little busy this week.
Yeah, we're busy. So forgive me if I pause to drink water, because it's been a long day.
It's a lot of talking has happened, especially today. Yeah,
especially today has been so steps, right? So here, when I talked about steps, like Maven build is a step. Parse the YAML is a step. Git clone is a step, right? So they're container specific. So when you are providing environment variables, volumes, config maps, secrets, right? You're providing that to the step, right? So that's what a step is. So a task is a collection of steps, right? So it's essentially a unit of work. Maven install is a task, right? So that'll have one or many steps, right? Maybe it'll have a git clone. Maybe you do Maven install. Maybe you'll do something else. It'll just, a task is a unit of work that collects them logically. So for example, here, task Maven, right? MVM build, right? And you can parameter and and then basically these are supposed to be, I guess agnostic, right? Like your steps are specific, and then your tasks are agnostic, because like here you can say here are my parameters. So when I do a Maven build, I do Maven build and then something, right? And that something is passed via task, via parameter. So like git clone is a task. I'm sorry, git clone is a step. Git clone a specific repo, that's a task, because you're passing that repo as a parameter. So, and then a task run is basically, like I said before, an instantiation of that. You have your task set up, and a task run is when you run the task, it'll ask you, okay, well, what, like my previous example of git clone, right? Okay, well, what repo you want me to clone? And then once it clones it, that's a task run, right? At the very end, it's like the end result of all that, right? So in a task run runs in a pod, essentially. So each task runs in a pod. And so a pipeline is a collection of tasks, right? So you can kind of see how I'm building this already. There's steps. A task is a collection of steps, and a pipeline is a collection of tasks. And then basically defines the task execution, right, in the order. So you can do things like serially, right, like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have things run in parallel, right? Things that you want to run at the same time that don't really depend on each other. And then you can put dependencies in, right? I want you to run task 1 after task. Sorry, I want you to run task 2 after task 1. Task 4 doesn't matter when you run it. You can run it just as long as you run it after task 2, but in parallel to task 3, right? You can get really, really crazy with this, as I've learned, right? And so just kind of a heads up. I learned Tekton by just beating at it for a while, because it wasn't making sense to me. But then once it made sense, I go, okay, yeah, I could see the power in Tekton, and I'll show you some good resources after this, right? So kind of powering through this, right? So if every task runs in a pod, how am I supposed to chain these tasks together in a pipeline, right? So if I do a git clone and my next task is a Docker build, how does the Docker build see your git clone? And just the answer to that is a PVC, right? A persistent volume. So your tasks are running, pods, and pods spread around, all kinds of nodes in your cluster. So you need to use a persistent volume, right? So, and if kind of a fun fact, if you use a persistent volume that has block storage, all your tasks run on the same node, just because that's just like you can't, because it's block storage, you can't share it between nodes. It's kind of fun secret that I found out. That may or may not matter to you, but just
fun
kind of
secret.
keep in mind. Yeah. Well, I was overloading, like my node wasn't scheduling anything because it was like overloaded. I was like, oh, I'm using block storage. Yeah, that makes sense. Like all the pods want to jump on this one node. Because so if you're so just read write once versus read write many. Use read write many if you can. So that way your pods schedule in different nodes. So pipeline run, kind of like a task run, is basically an instantiation of your pipeline, right? You define your pipeline, and when you say pipeline run, it'll ask you the series of questions, right? The parameters, whatever you put in, and when I start hacking away, it'll make more sense. But that's what a pipeline run is, right? So nice. Triggers are pretty cool. Triggers is something I'm going to show as well. It's basically something that, well, the way I'm using it is that I'm using it get webhooks, right? When I make a commit, it'll trigger a pipeline essentially. But it's just a webhook essentially. So you can curl it, you can chat ops it if you want, right?
I mean, webhooks are awesome for their versatility and ease of use.
Definitely. And so yeah. So you have the event listener has a trigger template, meaning that when you do a pipeline run, it'll ask you for the parameters, but you can predetermine that parameter, right? So when someone hits this webhook, pass these parameters to this pipeline, and you can already see how things are starting to chain together. So so tasks, as you'll see, you can pretty much write anything. It's like you can do environment bash, even write a whole shell script of what your task will do. You can do env, write Python, write a Python script. But why? But why do that, right? So there's people like even Red Hatters, people in the community have like a catalog, right, of reusable tasks. So why write it when someone else has already written it, sort of thing. And Tekton Hub is also in beta, right? So if you go to hub-preview.tekton.dev, can I put that in the chat? Someone put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. So
you said preview.
Actually, it's hub-preview.tekton.dev.
That's right. I got it.
Yeah. And so yeah, and that's kind of like the Tekton Hub. That's kind of like the the known good tasks that you can use. So basically, if you want to write your own, cool. If you don't, just search the catalog. Hey, you know what? Like I'm a fan of reusing someone else's work if it's good, right? If it's good,
yeah, great artists steal.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Right.
Like, hey,
like seriously.
I don't. Yeah. I don't have time to also like. I don't want to write my own thing that I need to maintain. Right. Like why?
I can do that, add on to what someone else maintains.
Yeah. Which you'll see some of the stuff that I've done here. So this is actually pretty easy, right? With the pipeline architecture, you define a pipeline. It'll run many tasks. And once you have those, then you can reuse it, right? And for many things, right? So technically speaking, you can define one pipeline, but use it for many pipeline runs. So this is kind of a paradigm that the Jenkins people, those who are really into Jenkins, this will mess you up because it's usually a one-to-one relationship, right? Like this is my project foobar pipeline. This is my project Baz pipeline. And is there two distinct pipelines? Actually, in Tekton, it's just one pipeline, right? Like it's generic enough to where it's one pipeline. The pipeline run is what differentiates those pipeline runs. And so,
okay.
So you could essentially pipeline is the template, and then you can use that over and over and over and over and over again. So this messed me up a little bit. And I still haven't quite figured out how to make a pipeline template, but that's the idea. So I'm just kind of giving you the Nirvana concept. So there you go. So cool. Real quick, I didn't take too much time because I wanted to. How do I get exit out of this? There we go. I wanted to kind of go over Tekton in general. So here, if you go to the pipelines here, I already have a pipeline, but I won't talk about this pipeline specifically. If I want to create a pipeline, I can come here, and this has like a GUI saying like, hey, I want to do a git clone.
Yeah.
And when I do a git clone, I enter this URL, this branch or whatever, right? You can put main submodules, blah blah blah, right? So and then you can start chaining them together. So I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to go drop down the command line and go over a very simple hello world to begin with. So I'm going to put this in chat. And so this is one of, if not the best getting started Tekton articles I've ever read.
Oh, so, Cedric wrote it. Of course it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He was like brand new. So yeah.
yeah. So this is actually, so for those of you who don't know, Cedric was actually one of our interns.
He's coming back this summer, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So he, by the way, everyone absolutely loved him. He wasn't even an intern on our team. He was the intern on our dev advocacy team.
Right.
But like,
he did a
he
show on OpenShift TV and everything, and he did it phenomenally. So
he actually taught me something. So it's always great when an intern can teach you something. Right. Absolutely love him. So he wrote this. So if I'm kind of going to be loosely following this blog, so if you want to,
fair enough,
take a look. You got there, right? So I got. So let's take a look at a simple task, right? What did I call this? 0. There you go. So this is a task, right? So what I'm going to say, I'm going to have one step. The name of it is say hello, right? And then
I'm going to deploy a
specify an image
container, and off you go.
Yeah, UBI container. And this was really pretty cool is I could just do a bash -c and just start scripting away, right? And it just does echo hello world, right? So let's see apply this. Come on, cluster. There we go.
You can do it. You can do it.
And so I'm actually like, hopefully they don't delete this cluster as I'm using it. So we'll see. It should. It's less than 24 hours, so I guess it's good. So now if I do OC get tasks, tasks, it says there, but actually there's a Tekton CLI. I can do I think it's task list, right? It essentially uses the same thing. So
nice.
So now I have the task loaded up. Let's run it, right? So if I could do a Tekton task start, show log, and I want to do hello.
Can you extend the lifetime? I have a command for that if you have the permission.
Oh, no, yeah, no, she's talking about something. No, I'm not using that cluster. Feature. I'm using something else. Yeah, I'm using something else. Yeah. So here, Tekton task start, right? You see it says hello world. Pretty simple, essentially, right? Like you say, hey, run this task. If I do OC get pods, I think, yeah, it's completed, right? It actually ran a pod there, and that just ran that and it exited. So if I do OC get task run, right, it's essentially there. So if I wanted to run it again, right, run it again, it'll, right, hello world, beautiful. If I do OT get task list, right, it'll have one task. If I do get tasks, right, one task. But if I do task run, right, there's multiple tasks. So this is kind of like, this will show you, it'll say every time it runs, it essentially creates a new pod and runs. That's a new instantiation of that. So cool. So that's like the simple hello world. Let's add some parameters, right? So let's do parameters. So this file here. So it says, so I want to be able to reuse this, right? I don't want to just say hello world. I want to say hello and then someone's name. So here I'm going to parameterize it, right? I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to create a parameter called person. And this is kind of description, name a person to greet. And this is, it's a type of string, right? So you can actually have types. You have string, you have Booleans, you have int, whatever, right? And then the default is world. So if no one specifies anything, I'm just going to say hello world. And essentially here, this is how you specify the parameters. You can say param.person. It's essentially a, you follow the JSON path, right? It's like params person, right? So hello that. Straightforward. So if I do, we'll see, right? Famous last words.
Okay.
So I got that. Tekton, let's do a task run. Where am I? Let's clear this screen here.
Thank you. It's getting pretty far down there.
Yeah, it's getting pretty far down. So now when I start the task, it'll ask me, hey, you need a parameter. You didn't specify one. The default's world, right? And so if I press enter, it'll just say hello world. And there you go. Right. If I run it again, I can say hello Christian. Right. And
did you provide the parameter on the command line?
Great question. I love it when people ask questions that of the next thing I'm about to show, right? So so you can say -p for parameter, right? Per person equals we go
Bob. It doesn't matter.
Bob, there we go. File
there you go.
Task
file name argument.
Yeah, no, I forgot to put hello, the name of the task.
Oh, duh.
Yeah, I deleted the task name for whatever reason, right? And so here it'll then you can provide that in the command line. Hello, Bob.
Ta-da!
Another cool thing is, I think it's --use params defaults, right? Again, I forgot the name of the.
Oh yeah, that.
So then you can do param defaults, right? So since I set up a default of world,
You have a default.
Yeah. So that way it doesn't ask you interactively. You can just pass it along. So
very nice.
So those are parameters, right? You can pass that to a task. So now let's create a pipeline, right? I have pipeline, right? See here. So one this file, I'm going to create a task. This task says say what, right? I like Cedric's names, right? It's
yeah.
He always keeps you engaged even in writing, so it's always fun. Right? So it's something to say, right? So what should I say? The default's hello. How long I should wait, right? So it's kind of giving me something to sleep on, right? Because the step here, it says sleep, param, pause duration, and then say whatever you're going to say, right? So I kind of chain those together.
That's nice. It's a good example.
So you can so you can kind of just see, sleep however long, and then echo whatever you're going to say. So in the pipeline, let's come down here. Now I have two tasks. So task one, this is kind of hard to see, so I'm going to highlight it a little bit. So this is task one, from 29 to 36. So task one, I'm going to pass, I want you to sleep for 2 seconds and then say hello. This is the first task. And the task ref, meaning like, I want you to apply this parameter to this task. So the task we just defined above, say something. Second task, I'm not sleeping anything, right? So it's going to take the default, which is 0.
No sleep. No sleep.
No sleep for you. It's kind of like us. No sleep. We're busy.
Right. No, I sleep. Sorry. Maybe you don't sleep.
Yeah. Well,
I dedicate time to sleeping.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I provided 8 hours to my task. So and say this is.
I have to check this box. It's on my list.
Yes, right, exactly. And then I'm referencing the same task. So here you can see that you can have a generic task, but you can use it multiple times in your pipeline. So
nice.
Cool. So let's first let's do OC get pipeline. Right, there's no pipelines. If I do OC apply, and then get pipeline, my pipeline's there. And so let's run this pipeline. So that's Tekton pipeline start. And then, what was the name? Say things. There we go. So say things, and then show log. So this is going to fire up. This will actually fire up 2 pods. It'll fire up the first pod for the first task and second pod for the second task, right? And so this says, hi, this is the first task, right? Runs the first task. And then once that's done, it'll fire up the next pod, right? And then run the second task. So pretty straightforward. And then what's really cool is, when you start chaining these together here, I'm going to say things in order, right? And so I don't have the task defined here because I've already defined it, right? I already added that in. So first task, I'm going to pause for 2 seconds, say hello, right? Same as the other pipeline. This next pipeline is also, I'm going to pause for 2 seconds. And then, but if you notice here, lines 23 and 24, I'm creating a dependency here. I want to say, run this second task right after the first one. So in the previous example, and you couldn't see it because of the nature of the thing, but both of those pods fired off at the same time because we didn't build a dependency. So the fact that the first one came in first and the second one came in second was just a coincidence. This here, I'm creating a hard dependency. I'm going to say, don't start this task unless the first one finishes. Third task, I have also a dependency here on the third task. Run after the first task, but I'm not putting a dependency on the second task, right? I have no dependency on the second task, only the first task. So this kind of says the second task and the third task will run at the same time. However, I want you to note the value The third task to sleep is 1, and the second one is 2. So this will produce an interesting result. And then the fourth task, I have a hard dependency on the second and third task. So a little bit confusing, especially when you get down to this level.
Like,
and so
when I think of sequencing tasks together, Ansible immediately comes to mind, and there is some syntax similarities here, but the execution is a little different, right? Like, kind of the way you make it happen. Yeah, exactly. There's run afters, and making sure the order of operation stays the way it is interesting.
Yeah, and order of operation is important, and I'll show you why in a little bit.
Well, it's CI, so that's it's always going to be somewhat important.
Yeah, exactly. So here, let's go OC apply pipeline order. All right, so let's do Tekton pipeline list. Right, so now I have say things in order. Let me clear this here. So Tekton pipeline start, and then what is it? Oops. Things in order.
There you go.
Show log, right? So this is always the fun part, right? And so
waiting for things to blow up.
Waiting for things to blow up, and this will. So I have the first task. Right, it's coming up.
Nice.
Beautiful first task. So both of these happen second task, third task, right? And then so these two run in parallel, and then this happened after the second one. Yeah, and so you can put dependencies on that.
I feel like that's a little bit cleaner than like what I was thinking originally, right? Like the fact you can do tasks in parallel so easily, right? Like that's kind of an advanced feature for some tooling. Like this is just right out of the box. Like we're going to embrace this concept.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is kind of like the crash course in Tekton. So I put that in the chat. It's actually I was struggling with Tekton and I found that from Cedric, and I was like, okay, this was the nirvana, at least for me to get it.
Right.
That's doing complex things is funnily enough complex, right? And so how does this fit Tekton fit with Argo CD, right? And so that's the big reveal. And so I have a pipeline here, and it's doing a bunch of things, right? And so first thing I'm doing is I'm cloning the repo. And that's like one task, right? I clone the repo, and then I set an image tag, right? So I define, I'm not a big fan of floating tags, right? So floating tags, for those of you who don't know, is like dev, prod, stage.
Right.
Yeah. So like
long-lived tags, right? Like
yeah. I'm not a big fan of those tags. I'm actually more of a fan of like a version like v 2.1.3, or what I'm doing here is I'm just taking I'm chopping off the last part of the hash in my repository, my code repository, that specific git commit. I'm taking that tag, I'm taking that hash, and I'm just using it as an image tag, so I know what version is what. And so that's task 2. Task 3 is has many steps, right? So here, these git clone has one step, single step. This one has 3, right? I have a build command, right? I'm using builda. So that's I used to use source to image, but now I'm just using builda, and it does the build. So once it does that, it takes the end results and then pushes it to Quay. So I have for those of you in English, key, right? Whatever. Yeah. And then what I do is I take those end results and I load it up in a variable, right? Because I use every step I load what I'm doing into variable so I can use it in downstream steps.
Makes sense.
So here I have a parallel task, right? I have 2 tasks that are independent of each other, so I run them in parallel. so I do a Scopio copy of the task of the tag that I'm using to latest, right? So my dev version is always latest. So I just do a Scopio copy, making sure the image is updated.
Nice.
And then I'm cloning my deploy repo. So once I finish, once I'm finished doing my application, right? So if I come here and I show you, this is my code repo. This is nothing but my source code,
right?
And this is what I'm building here. I actually have a deployment repo. So I have two repos for my application. I have one for the actual source code and one for the actual GitOps stuff, right?
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you want to keep those separate. I'm a big proponent. Trying to do it all in one repo is headache.
Messy at best. Yeah.
Really messy. Well, and also they have different life cycles, right? My application is going to be changing a lot versus my infrastructure, not as often as you think. And so, so I'm cloning that deployment repo, right? The deployment repo where I defined a lot of these, like, right, I deploy this. I have an overlay for dev, overlay for production, right? And I'll show you how that works in a little bit. So, can't wait to that again. Well, watch it be, no, okay, good. I'm like, watch it be destroyed. And so I have, I clone the deployment repo, and I do that in parallel with Scopio copy because they're not related. So now I'm using customize to patch the image inside my deployment repo. So I use customize set image, and that'll update my customized file in the Git repo. And then I actually commit to dev. So since it's my dev environment, I just screw it, right? Just push it straight to dev. I want to see. This could be sandbox, it could be whatever environment you want, but in my case, it's dev. So I just want to do a git push of that update that I made. Next step is I'm going to patch prod. So I want to say, hey, production, I want to also update the image for production, but instead of committing, I want to create a branch. And then the last step is create a PR, right? And so notice all of the steps here in Tekton, there's absolutely nothing to do with Argo.
Right.
Nothing to do with Argo.
Like at all.
Like at all, right? All Argo's doing, and here's my dev environment. All Argo's doing is looking at my Git repo. So Tekton, right, does the CI. Argo does the CD part, and Git is the center of everything, right? And so, Chris, we always say that GitOps isn't a tool; it's a practice,
right?
But if GitOps is a tool, it's not Argo, it's not Flux, it's not ACM, it's actually Git, right? That's like your GitOps tool is Git, because the workflows all happen in Git, and so, and that's why they're kind of not interacting directly with each other, Argo CD or CI. They don't really necessarily know about each other, but they are working together through your Git workflows. And so let's, so I have this, my source code repository. This is my deployment, right? So I have welcome app and welcome deploy. I use overlays for my environments. This can spark a very deep discussion, and this will be another show. Yeah. This will be another show.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan. The difference between production and development, or like a dev and sandbox, is actually not a lot, right? What's really different is maybe the image you're using and the secrets, environment variables, but the base is, and now I'm kind of talking about customized, the base is usually the same. Deployment custom, like all deployment service route, it's the same. You're just kind of patching it. So that's why I do that. But we'll talk about directory structure. That's a whole nother show by itself. So I have,
eventually we do need to do that, because that's usually like one of the first questions that people start asking me. So stuff about Argo, right? Yeah, I know a little. How do you handle the
so,
directories?
Directories. And it's like, oh well.
Well,
yeah, you want to sit down and grab some coffee?
yeah.
Well,
let's go get something to
Yeah,
eat real quick, and we'll
yeah.
talk.
yeah, we'll talk here. And so so my deployment here is this is kind of where the magic. This is the workflow here is kind of what glues it together. So
Right.
let's make a change, right? So I have my development here. It says blue. In my, let me move this thing. It's stupid. There we go. My production says blue as well. So they're the same currently. So let's make a change. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. Where is blue? Let me just do a search of that. And we'll call this green, right?
There you go.
Standard blue-green deployment, right? Why make changes here?
Why did something yellow?
Cool? Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. Blue-green is the known term. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So git add that guy, git commit, and we'll do updating to green. And then I have signed commits now. So I'm joining the cool crowd. Yeah, joining the GPG signed commits.
I've kind of given up on GPG, to be honest with you.
Oh, actually, I did it with Keybase, and it was just like a breeze. So,
well, if you do it with Keybase, but then it's like proprietary PGP.
yeah. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I actually got this from Scott, our friends over at Weaveworks. He kind of, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna do that. So anyway, so I pushed that up. Actually, I didn't push it up. So I do a git push of my code. Right, and so this should trigger.
I was about to say, yeah. What are we triggering here?
Let's go to pipelines. So you see pipeline run.
Look at that.
It triggered that, right? And so, so as that's running, I'll show you where that's set up. So here, let me go back real quick. It's going to go through all those steps, right? And then my pipeline runs. You can see the history, and you can see the tasks are starting to come up. And so I'll keep this up here, but I set up my settings. So since this is a cooking show, I did this beforehand. Webhooks, right? I set up a webhook here. This is what it's called an event listener, right? And it's just a standard webhook here.
If something happens.
If something happens. So here triggers, I set up the event listener trigger. That's one of the things there. So
nice.
Where is my pipeline? And so here. So here I clone the repo, right? Does it get clone? Kind of straightforward. Set image tag. Essentially, I take the hash of the commit, and then I am providing it as the tag for Quay. So Quay.io, welcome app, and then just a hash, right? So I can identify a specific commit to a specific image. This part takes a while, right? Is builder essentially? I'm just
builder's got to pull down all the layers and everything and all that fun stuff. But this is how you can use your cluster to build your images, right? Like
and this is kind of the idea about cloud native CI is that it's kind of like a serverless type of thing. Is like you don't have a monolithic. You don't have like a platform. I mean, there's anything wrong with that. It's just a different way of doing it. But you don't have a platform like Jenkins or like CloudBees. You doing everything in cluster. You're leveraging your own cluster to do the builds because everything's containers, right? So, and you don't have to have things running all the time. You just kind of serverless type of thing where it spins up when you need it. And then, once this clone repo task is done, that pod leaves and those resources free up for other things. So.
Can you set up any caching along the way, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I'm doing a clone repo and doing set image tag, and you're like, how are you doing all that? If you go to storage and persistent volume claims, right? I have a volume.
Okay.
Right? And you can set up your pipeline to use the same volume. So right now, the way I have it set up, it just creates a new volume each time.
Okay.
However, you can just tell it to use the same volume.
Yeah, you could totally be like, hey, just continue to use this volume. You don't have to check it out every time. You just do an update, whatever. Yeah.
this is especially useful for people who are doing like Java, right? Like
Oh,
if you want
yeah.
to cache, if you want to cache your Maven, right? Because you don't want to download Maven build, download the internet, right? You don't want to do that all the time.
Yeah, you need to cache that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to be able to cache some of the things, and you just reuse the same storage. And what about external? So here's a question: what about external artifact repositories like JFrog?
Like JFrog. That makes sense. Yeah. Could you pull from that?
Yeah, you can pull from that as well. So you can have not only caching locally, right, by doing, or Artifactory or whatever, you can cache it, on the storage. And
how do you clone a private repository? That's a good question.
Yeah, so if you go here, if you go to tasks and click on cluster tasks, you can actually look. There's some cluster tasks are pre-built tasks, right? So so there's a git clone task here.
Yeah.
And if you look at the YAML, let me scroll down because this is a big YAML. Yeah, annotations. We don't care about annotations. So you can provide what am I doing here? Oh, you don't provide it in the task. I'm sorry. You provide it in a secret.
I was about to say, is this a config map or secret thing?
Yeah, it's a where's I forget where secrets
compute,
are stored.
I think.
Is it under compute? No.
It
goes to show you how often I use the UI.
How often we go into the UI? Yeah.
You see here, networking workloads maybe.
It's got to be
secrets.
There it is. Yeah, it's got to be someplace up top.
And then and I do git. So I have a token and an SSH key, and you just load it up in. So this is kind of like the black magic. I kind of wish we did this with Jafar, but this is like middle of the night with Jafar. When you add a git secret, that's right. So you add a now I remember. So you add your secrets, and when you are
calling them in the task.
No, in the task runs as a specific service account. Called pipeline.
Nice.
A service account pipeline, you just
has those.
Yeah. So I said
secrets. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So the service account pipeline. So first I create the secret, and then I say the service account has access to this secret and this secret, and Tekton just knows to use it. It's actually just magic at that point, right? So you say.
It's just magic, as in lines of Go code.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it looks like my pipeline finished. Let's look at the pipeline run. So my pipeline run, all green, beautiful.
Nice.
Task runs, right? You can see where the logs go. So you can say, you can see.
Oh, you can see. Oh, wow, fancy.
Yeah. So I have, we left off here, build and push, right? So step 1, build it. Step 2, push it. Step 3, cat the information I need and store it into a variable because I'm using it later. So I clone. So these two ran at the same time. Clone deployment repo. Tag to latest, right? So I'm doing a Scopio copy. Right. I'm gonna say Quay. This hash is up to latest. Patching dev. I'm running this customize command. So customize. I was doing this weird YQ thing in order to patch it, and then someone said, "Hey, you can do that with customize." And I was like, "Thank God." I'm like, I was like, that's actually Andrew Pitt, one of the Canadians that I
got it. Okay.
They're like, "Hey, you can do a customize edit." I'm like, "This is really cool." So basically, what that does is it updates your customize .yaml file to say. Update the image for this deployment when you read it in. So I commit to dev because I like to live dangerously, but I'm using the git commit command to just push to dev. I patch prod, right? Same. It's actually patch prod and patch dev are the same task, except what repo I target, what directory I target. I'm sorry. Branch to prod, right? I'm creating a branch. And then I do a PR, right? So how does this look like? Argo should have already, So Argo, if I refresh dev, it says green, but prod does not say green. I have a process. I have a process, right? I go to my PR and look, you see here, magic, FM, right?
Yep.
Magic here is the P is my CI process created this pull request. And this pull request is basically I go to files change, right? And if you noticed here, it says overlays, prod, customization. Let's look at the full file. Right, in this basically the section in the customize edit that you saw on there, essentially updates this field here. If I go back, so you can see here. So here, you can I can say this is dumb, right? Like you can go through your, start the review, start the process, that sort of thing, right? So, kind of just to go back here. So what I'm doing is I commit to dev directly, but the way I'm doing like gating is essentially I'm doing it through a PR and using your workflows, right? My workflow is pretty simple, but your workflows will be a little more complex, right? There's gonna be code review. You have protected branches. You're gonna, do yada yada yada. So, if I want this to go to production, right? All I have to do is I go, okay, cool, merge pull request. I'm merging my own pull request. I don't need this. I don't need this branch anymore, so I'll just delete it. And then the code is updated. And so if I go to do a hard refresh on, you see that Argo says, oh, hey, there's a new image updated. And Argo automatically creates a new pod. And so if I go to my application, it should say green now. The route, stale route. Come on. There we go, green. So now my dev matches production because I just approved that PR. So there is a question here. Let me see here. 1 second. I'm gonna need like hot tea after this. Right. So do people usually create separate cluster for this? You'll probably not want this in your regular application clusters, right? So so Argo, so it depends what you yeah. So it depends what you're doing, right? So it looks like braided silver also says it depends as well, but your pipeline, it just depends where you'd be running it, right? So in my pipeline, I would do it all in that same cluster. The deployment of that pipeline, though, is different, right? The deployment, Argo CD can deploy to many clusters, right? Argo CD can deploy to one cluster, right? This is dev and prod in different namespaces, but it can be different clusters as well. But the actual pipeline is running on the cluster. So there's not like a clustered pipeline, right? Like that's not the idea of Tekton. Is you won't have like a fleet of Tektons running. You would have one instance of Tekton. But I can see why you would want that, because you're coming from the Jenkins world, right? Whereas like you'll have, because Jenkins has like what are those Jenkins agents or whatever that they deploy and do their own work. This is like another way of thinking of doing that. Yeah, pipelines could spin up a test cluster as well.
Right.
Hillary is saying validate and then promote to production. That's another way of doing it. That's what kind comes into place, right?
Right. Like that's where is dev test separate from prod cluster a common pattern?
That's a good question. Dev test cluster, yes.
Yeah, it is pretty common actually.
It's usually pretty common, yeah. It's actually, I would say like at the minimum, I see customers have 3.
Yeah.
Right? They have like their dev cluster, like their staging, and then production minimum.
Right, and then sometimes they even have
well, there's like sandbox, right? Or like
or like a production mimicked instance that they could load balance over to or whatever for any upgrades or whatever. Sometimes, yeah.
I'm a fan, and I've said this to a lot of people, and they know I'm a fan of clusters as cattle, right? Like if you're going to deploy a new application, you're deploying a new version of OpenShift, but that's just me. I know I'm talking crazy. There's going to be a lot of people that says I'm talking crazy. Andrew says I'm talking crazy. I understand that. I understand customers aren't there yet. Let's just say that. Right. But I am a fan of clusters as cattle because, GitOps fan over here.
So Sully's asking, can GitOps/Argo CD be used to coordinate build on one cluster and deploy to another?
Yeah. So, so I think this is also the idea of divorcing the idea between CI and CD, right?
Yeah.
So I am of the opinion that's not Argo's job to coordinate the build on one cluster and build on the other. That's actually Tekton's job. That relies on the lap of Tekton. Tekton will coordinate that for you. So Argo CD in this scenario in CI/CD is actually has a very small role to play. I would say it's actually a simple but simple / powerful design of Argo is like, hey, I'm just a reflection of what you want to get.
Right.
It has other tool sets that make it actually pretty neat. You can do things like pre-sync hooks, post-sync hooks, sync waves, and that's actually a nice segue to I've talked about those before. So if you go to red.ht/GitOps, that I've talked about sync waves and things like that before. So Argo does have certain tool sets that can orchestrate a little bit of this, but the real brains is in your Tekton. It's in your CI process.
Right.
And so, the way I would set it up to coordinate build on one cluster versus another is via Tekton. I would have Tekton
push the
build
thing.
that somewhere else. Yeah, push things in other. So
cool.
So Hillary says, CI merge your code in an integration environment for testing validation. CD deploy validated code to production. So
not everyone uses CI/CD with those definitions.
Yeah, with definitions.
Which
that's
is
very true.
Yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah,
sad and true. Yes.
Yeah, and also I think this is kind of just more of the tech debt we got from Jenkins, because Jenkins had such a large footprint and people were just using Jenkins as a big monolith that does everything, which at the time probably made sense. But they are distinct things. CI, right? Continuous integration is more to do with code than anything else. CD is really, you've done all your testing, you've done everything in your CI process. When you're finally doing CD, like it should be like the safe thing to do. I know I know a lot of people aren't there.
Right.
We're not all there as an industry, but the idea is CD shouldn't be scary because the scary stuff happened in CI, right? It failed in CI. That's why you want it to have failed in CI.
So I'm not going to say the name, but it starts with a T. I am using an approach very similar to yours, and I'm getting some pushback from devs that their CI does not let them know whether or not the deployment has worked or finished. Ooh.
Yeah. You can have hooks built into place.
Yeah,
right?
you should be able to like hook off to Slack or whatever kind of thing to be like
notifications,
email, whatever. Yeah, whatever kind of notification thing you need. System of record, whatever thing you want, just have it hook off to that.
Yeah, so this is also the a paradigm shift as well, is that if you want notifications, you have to build in the notification.
Right.
And it's not like out of the box, right? Like hey, if step 1 and step 2 finished, I'm gonna curl this. You can be as coarse as that. There might be something on the Tekton hub. Let's just look real quick. There might be a notification task. Let's look Slack. Send to Slack channel. Look, I just solved all your problems in one.
There you go. Look at you solving all my problems.
And so there's definitely notifications you can set up. They even have an Ansible runner. They have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, or that, or email, send mail, simple SMTP, email relay. I'm pretty sure there's something for SendGrid. I like using SendGrid. Oh no! But anyway,
send a Telegram. That's awesome. Because I could just have a Telegram group of my devs and boom, off they go. Yeah.
Telegram. Send to Telegram. There you go.
Yeah.
So they're
so Hillary, the messaging tag, it looks like check the box for messaging. Clear your little search field, check the box for messaging.
Oh, messaging. There we go. It's cool because I don't have to write any of these.
right?
Telegram, send
Send a
webhook to
webhook
Slack.
Slack, send a WebEx room, send a Telegram.
Send a WebEx room. Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's impressive, right? Like,
yeah. Needs carrier pigeon. Someone says carrier pigeon. Have that.
Needs carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a carrier pigeon. So like now when I'm,
so yeah,
away,
you just put this task in at the end with, echo all the results out and off you go.
Yeah. So some hooks hook to Argo, tell the devs to go to Argo and shut up. So so there's you can set up hooks to Argo as well. So post sync hooks, right? So there is multiple notifications you can set. So the Argo, sorry, the Tekton, right? In your CI, you can have hooks going in to send notifications. On Argo, actually has a post sync hook.
Right.
So like once everything is finished, you can say, "Hey, the sync was successful. Here's a hook."
Yep.
There's also Argo CD hooks or notifications. I'm not a big fan of notifications in this aspect, but one, because it's like alpha, but you can have Argo CD notifications come in via.
You can commit the results of the CI testing back to Git. Says Braided.
You can do that as well. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Commit the results of the CI testing back to Git. That's actually pretty neat. Yeah. You can do that as well. I haven't thought about that.
So
pretty neat. So
I'm just going to call it now. T's question was more due to the fact that the deployment is sort of asynchronous. You just change the manifest and wait for Argo to do its thing. So the pipeline itself does not necessarily wait.
Correct.
Yeah.
You could, and this is because I'm using a GitOps workflow.
Right.
You can use event driven, right? So what's really cool about Argo CD is that you can turn off the automatic sync and just use hooks. And then it turns into like an event driven. So you can actually still do event driven architecture with cloud native tools, right? So, yeah, also pipelines aren't linear as well, right? So it doesn't have to pause and wait for things. You can do things in parallel. So as we saw in my pipeline, right, I have one task that two things happen at the same time. And so, yeah, so you can actually definitely use, pipeline, trigger something in Argo, and your next task maybe to wait for something to happen in Argo, get some, you can even do something as dumb as until curl equals 200,
right?
Sleep 10, right? Like whatever.
Yeah.
You could be really coarse with it, but something analogous to that. But you can definitely do event driven things as well. So
yeah,
cool.
All right.
So is there any other pause maybe for a little bit? Any other questions?
Yeah, just pause for a second. Let's see.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking, we should have just had Hillary on. But
right. Like
whatever.
maybe
hindsight 2020. She should have came onto the stream.
Right.
Whatever.
Maybe next time we're touching all of this, maybe Hillary should come on.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, especially get an SRE's perspective on it. So
right, exactly.
That'd be so yeah, 10 years of CICD and being an SRE.
Wow,
she'll have a thing or two to say about it. So so yeah, next time we talk about CI, maybe we'll invite Hillary on. That'd be fun conversation.
Where is Hillary SRE?
SRE
dedicated org or
dedicated? Yeah.
Okay, so she probably knows Chris Collins.
She knows all kinds of people.
Hillary, if you know Chris Collins, reach out to him about what he's working on with me.
Oh, he's doing. Oh, that's right. You guys have a Ask Us SRE channel.
We're working on it. Yeah. I mean, Chris Collins and I go way back. So he reached out to me.
Chris and Chris.
Yeah. No, he's like 6'8" and I'm like 6'4". So like we both worked
the only person
together.
The only person who you're shorter than. Yeah.
Right. We both worked at Duke and Duke University, and he was on the Duke IT side and I was working on the research side, and we were both doing kind of similar things at the same time. So we're, feeding off each other. So the idea now is that like he's been an SRE for a while. He's all these different ways of doing dedicated now, and let's bring that to the channel. So yeah, it'd be cool to get a bunch of SREs from throughout that org.
Yeah,
chipping
it would
in,
be.
for
It would
sure.
be nice, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, cool, awesome, man. Well, thank you for showing us all this fun stuff.
I know this was a crash course because I went from like hello world to full pipeline, but I kind of wanted to, go over the, how it fits in with GitOps and how Argo CD fits in, and how really your Git workflow will dictate all that. That's the center of everything. So unless there's any other questions, I think we're good for this time. Oh, one housekeeping. Totally forgot.
Yes.
We are skipping. We're taking a break for the next show, so we're skipping. Instead of the next show being in 2 weeks, it'll be in 4 weeks. It'll be a month out because of KubeCon, right? So
right.
So KubeCon EU is going on. So I have a thing. I tweeted it out on KubeCon, right? You guys kind of got a sneak preview because I kind of go over this demo in that talk. And two, we're having GitOps Con, right? So if you haven't signed up for GitOps Con, CFPs were submitted. We emailed out the congratulations. It's happening. So I'll be at GitOps Con. I'll be at KubeCon. So we're taking a break that week because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on.
The pattern is full. So yeah, GitOps Con is on Monday the 5th. OpenShift Commons Gathering is on the 6th, something like 3rd, 4th. So GitOps Con's
busy. Yeah. Commons is 4th.
Commons is the 4th. The conference kicks off on the 5th, and I'm doing a talk that morning on the 5th. Yeah. So yeah, by Wednesday, I will probably be exhausted. And
so we're taking a break. We're taking
more days of KubeCon going still. So yeah. But please come check out Christian's talk, my talk, everybody's talks need to kind of reach the scene here. So yeah. So go check us out there. And next week is Red Hat Summit. So if you haven't signed up yet, go there, get your free ticket. I just dropped the link in chat. It's free. If let's say you can't make the first half, but you want to be alerted about the second half, please sign up anyway, because that's how you get in the notification chain.
There you go. So lots of stuff going on in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I figured we'll take a break on streaming.
Well, thank you.
We'll still be out there. We'll still be streaming.
Yeah, we'll definitely be around. Yeah.
Well, just not on OpenShift TV.
There'll be will be during KubeCon. There will be office hours that we're doing. So I need to get those all booked out and put in the schedule. But I think I'm doing that tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow, given looking at the calendar now.
Talking about spillover for meetings.
Yeah, today was everything spills over into tomorrow. But anyways, thank you, Christian. Thank you, audience. This is it for the channel today. We appreciate you tuning in throughout the day, and stay safe out there, everybody, for sure.
Yeah. See you guys later.